Welcome to Software Leaders Uncensored with Steve Taplin.
Welcome to Software Leaders Uncensored. I'm your host, Steve Taplin, 25-year serial tech entrepreneur. My new book, Fail Hard, Win Big, comes out next month in June 2025. It's my story of 30 ventures, 20 failures, and 10 wins. Sometimes the 20 failures gets to me, but hey, if I was if I was a baseball player, I'd get in the Hall of Fame with a .333 batting average. The common element of all my ventures has been building custom software development. I'm now the CEO of Sonatify Technology, premier software development firm. And today I am joined by Jason Wilcox out of Colorado. Jason has been an engineer, dev manager, a consultant, a CIO, and multi-time CTO. Jason, welcome to the show.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You bet. Jason, walk our listeners through the journey of your career and what's led you to this point.
Yeah, happy to. So I started out as an engineer, like I think a lot of technology leader professionals do. I was an engineer for GE Healthcare for a number of years, working on some interesting biomedical devices. And then from there, moved into software development for a small little company that I started with a friend. We designing university housing software of all spaces. Nice. And then from there, we had a lot of traction in IT, designing custom solutions that interacted with software off the shelf as well as custom software, and have kind of found a niche in, I guess, software development, working on financing applications and taking teams that are struggling with solutions that are off the shelf and looking for a custom win and moving into those and finding a lot of success. So that's how I got here.
Fantastic. Now, to me, if you're an engineer, a tech leader, the ultimate career goal is to get to the CTO mark. A CTO is a tough job. You have non-technical stakeholders, other execs, board members that don't understand technology, that you have to quantify the team's existence. How did you end up as CTO of Source Advisors?
Yeah, it's a great question. Source has a eclectic variety of custom software, a lot of technical debt, but a lot of custom software that has been either developed through the years through great team members that they've had at the company or through acquisition. And if you've been through an acquisition or you tend to get these little one-off applications that someone built and all of a sudden it did something really great and now they've supported it for a decade and they don't know how to move on. Yeah. Certainly that's a piece of it. But I have a pretty, varied background from information technology, running a managed service company in IT. I have a master's degree in predictive analytics, so doing a lot of data science in those areas, and then have done cybersecurity for years. Source was looking for someone that could really act strategically across all those different domains and help take the company to the next level. And it's been so far a great and exciting challenge.
Now, did you know anyone at Source? How did they find you? How did you find them?
Yeah, good question. I was ramping down from an engagement with a VC-backed startup that I was working for and looking for my next opportunity. A recruiter reached out to me, and initially I was like, tax? No, I'm not interested in tax. But he walked me through kind of the interesting background that they have. So while it's a professional services company, a lot of interesting technology, a lot of things that they're trying to do, and a hunger to do more. And since being there, it's been great, working with generative AI, helping them through cybersecurity maturity, data engineering maturity in those areas, but did not know anyone there. But it's such a great culture that it was really a great fit.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of the current projects you're working on.
Yeah, so probably like everyone, generative AI and machine learning is a big part of what we're doing and what we're trying to be doing. However, we're in financial services. We work with a lot of companies that have a lot of private data, things of that nature. So we don't have the flexibility to jump into ChatGPT or any of these others without.
You can't just throw all their financials into ChatGPT and say, give me an analysis?
Yeah, they frown on that. Yep. Okay. They seem to have a contractual issue.
On your back.
That's right. Yeah. So Gen AI has been really exciting. We're trying to help our professional services teams work through that. And then as well, like I mentioned, we have a variety of lines of business. They each have their own program or multiple programs. So working through a lot of that, designing great user experiences for CPAs and for direct clients. So a lot of irons in the fire.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Talk to us about your engineering team, how they're structured, how many people you have, the working model, whether it's remote or hybrid or in person.
Yeah, so we have a fully remote model. I myself am remote. Our offices are in Fort Worth, and I'm out here in Colorado. But we're a global team. We have people in India, Pakistan, Albania, Ukraine, Poland, the UK, the US, California. So we work a lot across a lot of different time zones, as I'm sure you're experienced to. But yeah, the team's great. We look for a good combination of people that can get along well and kind of fit that right cultural niche and also have a hunger about passion. So we've got people that have to maintain older legacy applications, but they love learning new things. And we have some newer developers that are fully invested in generative AI, machine learning, newer technologies like Python. I'd say things like React. I guess Python and React aren't super new, but I think there's been a resurgence just because of the data science aspect to it.
No doubt. So having a global team, how do you work through time zone challenges and that need for constant collaboration?
Well, I mean, you're a CTO, so you just have to be up 24/7, right?
There you go. I'm a CEO, not a CTO. I wish I was technical enough, but
Yeah.
I'm halfway there.
All right. Well, fair enough. The CTO side and just the time zone side, it's an interesting challenge, but people, I would say the team together makes sacrifices, right? We have team members that get up a little earlier than maybe they wouldn't necessarily get up, and we have team members that stay up a little bit later. And we tend to do a lot of collaborative stuff in the morning, and that seems to work really well. And then what it means is if you're over in Europe or the India area, kind of the end of your day is that collaborative work. And then if you're in the US, the beginning of your day is that collaborative work. But it works out pretty well. This is not my first foray into that global mechanism. And yeah, I think people tried a lot of different ways, and there's probably a lot of different ways to skin the cat, but I find for this team that tends to work best is having some of that collaborative time.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So as a CTO here in 2025, what's your current or ideal tech stack and why?
Good question. My ideal tech stack, I'll say we run about a dozen different tech stacks here through acquisition and whatnot. So
okay, well, that'll keep you on your toes.
We support a lot. Ideally, we're in the Microsoft environment. We found a lot of success across SharePoint and some of the collaborative tools with Word and PowerPoint. So our production teams have really embraced that, which means that Azure has become a large part of our data engineering stack and our software development stack. And then, I guess language-wise, it's a lot of Python on the back end and a lot of React on the front end. We're investing heavily in those. Azure Functions, a lot of serverless architecture to control costs, but we've really got our sights set on building something that not only solves the problems that our clients are running into, that our internal stakeholders are running into, but we're trying to deliver something that is very novel and very forward-focused on just data science and machine learning, something that really utilizes the data that we have. We've been in business 40 years and brings that power to our clients or to our internal stakeholders. So Python is a great way to do that. And React is an excellent front-end framework. We use some other stuff in there like Next.js, TypeScript, some of the good stuff there. But yeah, that's our bread and butter now.
So you were talking about data, and generative AI has certainly been a huge thing over the past couple of years. And as we look forward to be able to make the most use of AI, as we've just kind of scratched the surface of it now, a company has to have strong data governance, a good data platform and naming conventions and governance. And that's not an easy thing to do. And, a company with 40 years of data, how are you going about that to set you guys up for the future?
It's eating the elephant one bite at a time. Data hygiene.
You can really do.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Your company with the work that you all are doing with your clients, I'm sure you see it time and again. Data hygiene is one of those things that once you start down that path, and your data management's a bit unhygienic, it's such a slippery slope to easily end up with a situation that can be uncontrollable.
I see very few companies that have figured that out.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I would say, we haven't fully figured it out yet. We definitely are investing in data maturity. It's a huge piece. We brought in an excellent senior data engineer with a lot of experience who is a stickler for specifications and requirements. And it's an education process, because as you know, right, we have different people working on data, but it's a minuscule part of the team as compared to all the stakeholders that use the data, use the insights, and need to be a part of that process. And so they have to be educated to it. And education is where you have to start. If you're not invested in educating your stakeholders, you're going to run up against walls every time.
Now, with having over a dozen tech stacks from acquisitions and applications your company has inherited, have you been able to build in AI as part of the engineering process where your team has access to tools for productivity, such as Windsurf or Cursor or one of those?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have played around a lot with the different tools. We're in the Microsoft stack, so we have a proof of concept going now with Copilot, running that across IT, development, as well as lines of business. We try to give our team and our team members the freedom to do continuous education, to play around with some of the tools that are out there, GitHub and their Copilot, Cursor, Windsurf. There's a new one, Cosine, that I've played around with. And there's a lot of great tools out there.
The one we talk about today will be outdated tomorrow.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, the one who I'm sure is going to win some benchmark next week. I haven't even heard of him.
Exactly.
Yeah, the team, I would say that from a testing standpoint, our teams really like what they can do there. And certainly they give you a bump, right? They kind of raise the work that you're doing, but they're not quite there as far as being able to take over, which I'm sure is great for our software developers. So,
well, and there's certainly a lot of debate in the industry of the future of the software development space, and will there be less roles in the future when it comes to how AI is progressing? I have my strong opinions on that, but I'd love to hear yours.
I think if I had to wager a guess, I'd say in 3 to 5 years, your junior level developers are going to be a lot of AI agents and bots. And it'll probably get harder for people to get into software development. But I think that the people that stick with it are going to be able to progress to that mid-level and senior level a lot faster because they get that immediate feedback. It's like paired programming. Right? Yep. 24 hours a day or however often, hopefully you're not programming 24 hours a day, but 8 to 12 hours a day. It's like paired programming and having someone who knows some good practices, but also knows some of the good frameworks and just good ideation to have out there. And again, having that back and forth. So yeah, I don't think developers are going to go away, but their job is going to be markedly different than what they do today.
Well said. And even today, it's hard for junior developers to get roles as, supply and demand of developers has taken a turn. What advice do you have for developers right out of college or ones that don't have their first 3 to 5 years experience? What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I think my advice would be similar to what I would have told somebody 10, 20 years ago. It's just a little bit different, but I find that people who are deliberate about their experience and education tend to not have an issue. I think, and you probably see this too, your company does a lot of hiring. You have people out there that are fully invested in their education. They are deliberate about the work that they're doing and they find it interesting. And for them, they grow quickly. They're kind of like that shooting star. They fly fast, right? They grow really fast. You find a larger group who they take a job and they think that they have to do that, do the work within that job. And they kind of work through the job, but they don't get deliberate about their own experience and development. And I find that those people tend to wither. Those are the ones who struggle. If you're really interested in software development and what it's going to be in 5 years, so kind of the old Wayne Gretzky line of don't pass the puck to where the person is, pass it to where they're going to be. It's that same thing of you have to be deliberate about where you want to be in 5 years. Don't let just the next 5 years pass and you're kind of gaining experience at that, really find a deliberate practice about getting to where you want to be.
Great advice. So as a CTO in today's world, what's the biggest challenge you're facing now?
The biggest challenge, well, it goes back to people and hiring. I think there's really high expectations. I'd be curious what you're seeing, given that, with the fractional C-suite stack and CTO stack that you have, and, surfacing to your clients, software developers and things of that nature. I would suspect that you're seeing I don't know, just an evolution of the candidate pipeline. That's what we're seeing.
No doubt. No doubt. I mean, it's certainly been a brutal space over the past 18 plus months, and nobody has any tolerance for anyone but the best engineers out there. And so when we see people who are reactive versus proactive and who just kind of go with the flow, or ones who aren't constantly proactively looking for more work in low times, are the ones that tend not to make it during this time, versus the ones that always want to learn, who are skating where the puck is going to be.
Yeah.
And are staying on top of things. So that's what we're seeing.
And, you have external clients. So I would imagine that communication skills and collaboration are a little bit, the watermark's a little bit higher. That's what I found in managed IT services. But
no doubt.
Yeah.
Our niche for my company, Sonotify, is that our engineers are nearshore or in Latin America, and we only hire fully bilingual, and clients are coming to us who have complex challenges that need that 8+ hours of collaborative time with their team to solve those challenges, and ability to speak up, whether it's on daily stand-ups, whether it's on admitting when you don't understand your responsibilities. That's key in today's environment, no matter where you're located around the globe.
Yeah, our internal stakeholders as well, I think, have maybe doubled down isn't the right word, but they are more interested in having really good collaborative conversations with the developers, and the developers want that additional context. It's very different than a decade ago, when you could have developers that they might want to understand a little bit, but they're programming functions and building logic, and they're solving maybe less complicated problems, is the way to put it. And now, these problems are so business critical and so niche intensive that, we find we need really high caliber collaborative developers, because they're working with stakeholders a lot more.
So with a global engineering team, how have you gone about building trust with them?
It's a great question. I think there's trust aspects on both sides. The internal stakeholders and the internal culture at Source is very interested. All the internal stakeholders, they're very excited about new technology. Now, they don't want things just thrown at them, right? They'll get change fatigue and things of that nature, same as any business user would. They're really invested in seeing what some of these changes in technology can do. So the trust side is almost a little bit easier, because they have an implicit trust of, all right, I'll trust you as long as you keep delivering. Now, delivery is key, and we try to attack our projects in such a way where we're delivering either epics or microservices in such a manner where users can get their hands on them very quickly. So one of our big projects is building out we call it kind of a AI ML microservice. So it's a single platform for all the stuff we want to do. But we're trying to attack in an iterative nature some of these really high important business challenges, and solving them quickly but iteratively, so people can get in there and they can play around with it and kind of see what they're doing. And success in that builds upon itself, right? So you get yourself a few extra chits as soon as you have a success or a win. They can't all be wins, unfortunately, but we find that if you're open on where areas aren't wins, internal stakeholders are much more amenable to give you another chance.
So with that, Jason, how do you justify tech's existence to non-technical executives or CFOs, especially during tough times? How do you quantify the work that's being done to people who don't understand what software engineering is?
That's a really good question. And I
have a couple decent ones.
I'll give Source a plug in that the companies I've worked for in the past, even companies that are technological in nature, a lot of technology can be cost cutting. It can be, how do we find ways around this? How do we cut some corners? Source, our CFO included, have been really interested and really positive about investment in technology. And so what I'll say is that that's a great start. For us,
Definitely.
we meet with the board regularly. We meet with our leadership teams regularly. We have started meeting with the entire company regularly. And part of that are technology updates and what we're doing. We work very collaboratively. As you know, we work a lot with CFOs, right? They're typically that bridge between finance and tech has to be very strong. But going through modeling exercises, going through cost analysis exercises, and really trying to identify how to put this. When I was in managed service, the idea is how do you make IT a profit center? And so they can, an executive team can envision that. There are certain companies where that kind of works, but not every company tech is a profit center. And here we're a support mechanism. Professional services that's our bread and butter. That is our revenue driver. And so we work to solve problems and just show how can we make them more efficient or drop labor costs, right? So a great example, we have a tool that we've provided to our clients. So we use it internally. We provide it to external clients, but it helps us cut out a huge amount of the early labor in R&D studies when we do research studies for tax incentive programs for the R&D tax credit. And that's just an area where we can go and look to, hey, it took X amount of labor to do it before. It now takes Y. We've saved you 50% of time, 60% of time. And those have true, real, tangible cost savings.
Very nice.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of the job of being CTO?
I will tell you, when I started out as an engineer, I had no interest in being in leadership or management. I am a techie at heart. I like working with the technology, and I still do. But I will tell you, I've had really good success training up and leading and mentoring people. And that has become a very worthwhile part of my day-to-day experience is collaborating and working with individuals on different projects, especially where now I have enough experience, been doing this a long time now, where I can provide feedback and guidance that people don't think about. I can help bridge some of those gaps where someone in tech is not thinking about the financial aspect, or someone in production is not thinking about the data aspect. And that's a lot of fun. I still like the technology, but especially being remote, getting on calls and working through problems with people is very invigorating.
Nice. So me and you have been around a little while. We got a couple gray hairs. What is one piece of advice you'd give your younger self?
I would tell my younger self to invest in the soft skill set more. Generative AI, machine learning, all these different things. If you're technical by nature, it comes not necessarily easy, but it comes naturally, right? You want to spend your time doing that. But these tools are also going to start to replace some of the need for some of those technical skill sets. They are not going to replace the need for soft skill sets anytime soon. And so you have to know how to interact with people, how to have conversations and communication, and how to work through blockers, right? Every technology project, people are going to see things different ways. They're going to want to do things different ways. And if you hope to be successful, you have to be able to navigate what that looks like. And again, I was a biomedical engineer in college. And one of the best things about being a biomedical engineer is I didn't have to take all the soft stuff, right? I didn't have to take comms classes. I didn't have to take business classes. We were so heavy on mathematics and engineering. And I thought that was great until, all that still came naturally. Every hiccup I've had, every blocker I've had was because I had not cultivated a strong enough soft skill set by the time that whatever happened.
And that's great advice for all engineers out there with the tech assistance that AI is bringing. Those soft skills will continue to be more and more important to be able to combine.
I think engineers are going to find that their job becomes a hybrid product owner, software developer, engineer sort of role where they're doing
the
100%. Product side. Yeah.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for getting uncensored with us today. This has been a fun interview. You brought up some fantastic points. Any final shout outs or advice for tech leaders you'd like to give?
No, I think I'm good for now, other than, what we talked about on the soft skill set. I'd say definitely make a plug. And if you need help with some tax incentives for your business, feel free to reach out to Source Advisors.
Awesome. Thanks again, Jason.
That's it
for this episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. Stay bold, everyone, and keep building.